As Commander-in-Chief, I have determined that it is in our vital national interest to send an additional 30,000 U.S. troops to Afghanistan.
Daniel 8. And by peace shall destroy many. Daniel 8. And by peace shall destroy many.
He that hath ears to hear, let him hear.
Let the reader understand. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. John 14. I have told you before it takes place, so that when it does take place, you may believe.
I receive this honor with deep gratitude and great humility. It's an award that speaks to our highest aspirations, but for all the cruelty and hardship of our world.
I don't think Obama can get a break. I mean, he gets the Nobel Prize. They attack him for that. You know, he basically, I think, saved us from financial meltdown. They attack him for that. He saved those girls, those journalists from Korea, got them out of North Korea. They didn't like that either. If he,
who's they?
The right wing of the party, I think. Do you think that if he solved global warming and really brought us out of Afghanistan, they would really hate him?
Probably, because I don't like what global warming's doing. I don't like cap and trade.
No, but
cap and trade.
My point is the guy can't get a break.
I understand that, but cap and trade doesn't solve the problem. It just allows the polluter to buy his way out of it. So it does see it's a fraud, cap and trade.
I see. Well, is that a conspiracy theory thing
no, that's a fact.
It's a fact?
Yeah, it's cap and trade's a fraud.
Okay.
And if they go ahead with that. But anyway, I'm disappointed in President Obama.
You are?
Yeah, because he told us when he ran he was going to run on change. I haven't seen any change. He's just a regular old Democrat. And he also told us...
What should he have done that would have been change?
Change?
Yeah.
Well, he could have done what he said, pull us out of both of these wars and bring our boys home. That's what I'd do.
But wasn't it a campaign promise of his to actually go into Afghanistan and get the
Well,
Al-Qaeda?
he said he was going to focus on Afghanistan rather than Iraq.
Yeah.
But the point is, Afghanistan's Vietnam. I don't care what they say.
How do you see that?
We're propping up an unpopular government, just like we did in Vietnam.
You mean Karzai?
Yeah, and we're pumping all this in there. It cannot be solved militarily. I do not believe that. They fought there for 1,000 years. You can't solve it militarily. It'll have to be solved diplomatically somehow. And let me put it this way. I think we should immediately implement a war tax to pay for it. And I think
who would pay that? Everybody in the country?
Everybody, because when you go to war, everyone should feel pain. We're not feeling pain.
No,
in this
that's true. We never haven't felt it.
And in that aspect, okay, we're sending 30,000 kids over there who might die, and then when they get home, they're going to have to pay for it too. Now, that's pretty greedy of us to do, don't you think?
Yeah, well, how do you feel about the draft? I mean, that would also get everybody involved. I think the draft should come back immediately. You do?
Yeah, and I was in the Stop the Draft movement back in the 70s, but I have a change in position now, because when you get a professional military, it becomes far too easy for these politicians to take us to war. If you have the draft, the war will end. Because then it comes home. When little Johnny don't want to go and he comes back a year later in a body bag, that affects the neighborhood.
Well, that's what happened in Vietnam, basically.
That's right.
I mean, we had
and it would end the war. Bring the draft back. And not only, here's a bigger reason. We have military guys that are going on their 6th, 7th, and 8th tour.
I know, it's terrible.
Isn't it about time we relieve them of their duty? They've done it. And the only way you do that, Joy, is with a draft.
He also says that they're only going to be there for 18 months. I mean, you barely have time to learn what you're doing in 18 months, right?
Well, you know what it tells me when I look at all this? Does he really run the country? Does he really run the country? Does he really run the country?
Governor, that would seem we're between a rock and a hard place.
Well, let's look at it that way. Maybe that's why we're there. We've got our troops in Iraq and we've got our troops in Afghanistan now. Is an invasion of Iran next? Because that's the country in between both of them. So maybe that's the big picture, and they're not letting us in on it. That, you know, their plan might be that, you know, they're going to do something to Iran so you get your military on both sides. You know, I haven't figured out yet how the country profits from either one of these wars.
As one of his first moves as prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu convened his Forum of Five. This forum meets once a week to discuss the Iranian nuclear issue. Netanyahu views this issue as critical. This is the forum which will ultimately decide whether or not to attack Iran. He says Israel must take this into account in its decision-making process over the next year. Defense Minister Ehud Barak's recent visit to the U.S., Secretary of Defense Gates generously offered Israel advanced radar systems and to link Israel's system with advanced U.S. anti-ballistic warning systems. But when Barak took out his wish list, including requests which would have been helpful for an Israeli attack on Iran, the American response was an unequivocal no.
The United States and the international community must continue and intensify our economic, financial, and diplomatic pressures on Iran to suspend enrichment.
Flexing its military muscle to Western powers and conducting 5 days of air defense war games. The games are aimed at protecting the country's nuclear facilities from attack. Iranian officials warn these drills are a sign they will retaliate against any interference with their nuclear program. The large-scale drill will take place over an area that's almost a third of the size of the country. The U.S. and European allies are pressuring Iran to end its nuclear activities.
Minister, just a couple of questions, if I may, on Iran. Our intelligence services, your intelligence services, struggle with the issue of how close they are to having nuclear weapons and how close they are to delivering them. How close do you think they are?
They're getting closer. There's no question about that.
How close do you think they are? 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 How close do you think they are?
If the Israeli Air Force is ever called upon to attack targets as far away as Iran, then this is the squadron that will carry it out. They're called the Hammers, and this is a rare look at the strategic site.
Not the law of the jungle.
The Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
Fingerprints and irises.
It's facial recognition software. It takes a 3D picture of every face, checks them against a database we keep here at the Watch Office.
It ranks websites by their relevance. This groundbreaking invention profoundly transformed access to information. Google rapidly became the first choice for internet search. And this was
Let the reader understand. Let the reader understand. Let the reader understand.